and welcome to another video. In today's lesson we are going to make this awesome crochet bag. You can use the squares for this bag to make a blanket. You don't have to make them this big. You could make them smaller and use it to make a blanket. You could use it to make a really groovy cushion cover if you use colours as bright as mine. Or you can make it more subtle if that's more your taste. In today's video, I am using Red Heart Super Saver in a rainbow of colours. I will list the colours for you when we get into the tutorial. I would like to say a huge thank you to Red Heart for supplying the yarn for this project. There is a written pattern for this bag and it will be located on my website. I will put a link for you in the description box below. Please subscribe if you are new to my channel. I would love to have you stick around, and if you do subscribe, make sure you press the notification bell, and that way you will not miss out on any future tutorials. And if you are already subscribed, you can go to the subscribe button and click on notifications. You can also find me on Facebook. We have an awesome Facebook group, Ravelry and Instagram. So if you're on any of those platforms, I would love for you to follow me, like me, whatever we do on the various platforms. So let's get started on the lesson. For our yarn, we're going to need lots and lots of different colours because this is going to be using up all those leftovers that we have. And I'm going to put a list of the colours that I've used on the screen because, well, I can't fit them all in the camera because there's so many. But of course, you can use whatever you like. This is a number 4 worsted weight yarn or a medium yarn, and it recommends a 5.5mm crochet hook. I'm using a 5mm crochet hook, which is a H, because I have loose tension and I just want it a bit tighter than what it recommends. But if you want to use a recommended, it's an I size crochet hook. This is the bright yellow. I love this colour. And this is Red Heart Super Saver yarn. I want to say a huge thank you to Red Heart for supplying the yarn for this video. If you would like to check out more awesome patterns and yarn, I will put a link for you in the description box below. You are also going to need some stitch markers. Altogether, you're going to need 20 stitch markers. I know that sounds a lot, but if you want to work all of your squares, is the word concurrently? I'm not sure. All at the same time, you're going to need 4 stitch markers for the corners, because it's a square, you've got 4 corners, so you're going to need 4 stitch markers per corner. You don't need to have the stitch markers, but trust me, if you're like me and you don't pay attention, you are not going to remember to put your corners in. We are also going to need a pair of scissors and a sewing needle, but to make one square we're just going to use 4 stitch markers to start with, and then, like I said, if you want to make them at the same time, like you do one round of yellow and do that 4 times. And then get your next colour, do your second round, and then do your second round on every square. So if you're going to do it that way, you are going to need the 20 stitch markers. You are going to need that many. But you can use old scrap pieces of yarn, you could use bobby pins, paper clips. You don't have to have these fancy stitch markers, but I do like them, and they're in one of my favourite colours, so yes. You may not know this, but this is the first tutorial I am filming after a year off. I forgot scissors, I forgot my sewing needle. I couldn't even remember how to transfer files back to my computer from my camera. You can use a magic ring or you can do chain 4 and join. And I'm actually going to do the chain 4 and join because that's how I did it with my other squares. I've already got 4 of my squares finished and I'm just working on my 5th square to show you guys how to do it. So like I said, I'm going to do the chain 4 and join, but you could also use magic circle, magic ring, whatever you want to call it. So leave a little tail at the end so you've got something to sew in later. And we're going to chain 4. And then we're going to go into the first chain to join, and we're going to do a slip stitch, and that will join the ring. It's only a small ring, but once we get a couple of stitches in there, it's fine. So for this first round, we're going to do 8 single crochets into the ring. So that's putting our crochet hook straight into the middle, no wrapping our yarn. So pull up and pull through. Go into the ring, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull through. And you'll see that I'm working over my tail as I go, so it's a little bit less to sew in at the end of the project. Well, it should be at the end of each round, but Who does that? Do you do that? Do you actually sew yours in as you go? I tell you to, but truth is, I don't. Secret's out. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I think that's 8. So what we do, the best way to count it is to count backwards, because sometimes if we've got a beginning chain it might throw us off and we might not know what we're counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I just hang on to the 8th stitch because that's our first stitch that we did. And we're going to go through the top, through both loops. Oops. And then pull through and join. And that's it for our first round. So what you could do is you could make 5 of those. My base of my bag is actually the blue one, which you'll see at the beginning of the video. That's what I used to design the pattern in 2014. It is now 2019. It just never got released. My blue one is just all blue, so you don't have to change colours if you don't want to. But for the other 4 squares, the sides of my bag, I'm actually doing the rainbows, so I am going to change colours and I'm going to cut off my yarn so I can finish this off. I am so out of practice, it's not even funny. I said it's not funny, I shouldn't be laughing. So we're just going to pull that. So with this project, we can actually crochet over most of our tails. So if you don't want to change colour because you don't want to sew in all the ends, we don't have to sew in many ends on this project. So our next round, we're going to get our new colour. So for me, that's the orange. And we're going to join the new colour into any of the single crochet stitches. You could join it, oh, and just a little tip, when we slip stitch to join, just make sure that slip stitch is really tight, because if it's not, it'll actually look like another stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've done it too loose. See there? See that? That's actually not a stitch, it's a slip stitch. So I'm going to undo that and I'm going to fix it, because I know I'll come around and what it will do is you'll have too many stitches. So see that loop, that stitch going across here? Get rid of that. It's just this little bit here that we don't want. So we're just going to join with a slip stitch, and it was this bit here, this loop that's on the crochet hook, that's what you could see. So if we just slip it like that, it looks like that's a stitch, but it's not. So what we need to do is grab hold of one, I think it's the back of the loop. Watch this loop here. Wait a minute. I'm pulling on the wrong thing. Where is it? Why is it not working? I know why, because I was pulling on the wrong thread. I'm pulling on the one from the middle. We don't want the one from the middle. Did I mention I'm out of practice? I've crocheted since then, but yes, anyway, so through there, and we're going to work a slip stitch. Let's try this again. See this loop here? It should disappear. Right, see that looks like a stitch? If we pull on it, which I think is the back one, let's try it again. This loop here should disappear. It's not going to disappear completely. Oh wait, yes it does. See, it's gone. You can't even see it now. Yay, it worked. And then pull it out. So now we should have 8 stitches, and that this bit just there is almost disappeared, so you know it's not a stitch. So we're going to go in there and we're going to join our next colour. and breathe. Okay, so this round is when we start doing our popcorn stitch, and we're going to chain 3, and that counts as our very first stitch. So I'm actually going to chain 4 because the first stitch is going to disappear. So you want to chain 3 and then work 6 double crochets into that same stitch as our chain 3. So here's where we can crochet over our tails so that we don't have to sew the little gliders in. This beginning tail you will, because we can't crochet over that anymore. So I'm just going to lay my tails on the top, and I'm going to go into that same stitch as the chain 3, and we're going to work 6 double crochets. You should know how to do double crochets already, so I'm not going to teach you how to do that. So that's 3, that's 2, 3, oops, get out, 4, 5 and 6. So that should give us 7 stitches altogether, because our first lot of chains there counts as our first stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Awesome. So at the moment it just looks like a big fan, and we want to turn it into a popcorn stitch. So what we do is we take our crochet hook out of this loop, we go to the first stitch, which in this case is just a chain 3. On following popcorn stitches it'll actually be a double crochet. But into the top, put your loop back on your crochet hook, and we're going to slip that loop through this one. So just pull it through all the way through. And I just give it a bit of a snug at the back, and we've finished off our popcorn stitch, and we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Into our next stitch we are going to work 7 double crochets for our popcorn. So our popcorn consists of 7 stitches. So notice how I was just pulling that over, because sometimes it might hide that next stitch there. So make sure our tails are over the top. And we're going to crochet in the next stitch, which is here. And we're going to work 7 double crochet. So that's 4. Go back to the first, let's move that out of the way. Go back to the first double crochet, which is here. I'm going to put our crochet hook in there. Put the loop back on our crochet hook, and then pull through. See how we pull through? I don't know if you're doing this too, but I know I do it all the time. I bring up this big loop, so that's why I snug it back down. I get a bit carried away and I pull it through. So now we are going to chain 3. The chain 4 that was here is our corner stitch. The chain 3 is not. It will be the straight side, which will make a lot more sense once we get a few rounds in. At the moment it's not looking very square. So in the next stitch we're going to work 7 double crochet, and see if you just grab the popcorn and pull it to the side. Here you can see your next stitch. So we're going to work 7 double crochet in that stitch. I seriously feel like I'm all thumbs. Try not to get anxious doing this tutorial. Because that's why I stopped doing my tutorials, because I was having panic attacks when I was filming. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because of stress. But here we are, stress-free, currently. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So go back into the very first stitch. put your loop back on your crochet hook. And then pull, stay on there, pull through, and then pull snug. So now we are going to chain 4, because before we did a chain 3, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to repeat this all the way around, but so we're going to alternate between a chain 3 and a chain 4. So we've just done chain 4. So the next one will be chain 3, the next one will be chain 4. If you can't remember what a chain 4 is, get your stitch marker. So if that was chain 4, that was chain 3, and the next one along was chain 4. So the first one we did was chain 4. Let's pop that in there. And I've just put it in the space, so it's kind of like just loose in there. This is a chain 3, so that's not a corner. And this is a chain 4, so this is a corner. So I'm just going to wrap it around like that. Hopefully it'll stay there. And then when I do my next one, which will be somewhere here. So see how there's I think there's a stitch here, and we're actually covering it with all these stitches. So just grab it. Yeah, it is. See how there's a stitch there? So when we work our 7 double crochets in there, I'm going to go over my tails again. There's still a bit left. So we're going to work 7 all together, but you can see that your stitch markers are now trapped in there. So we should end up with 4 lots of chain 4 spaces and 4 lots of chain 3 spaces, and we will have 8 popcorn stitches altogether. So pause the video and I'll meet you when we have our 8 popcorns, and I'll show you how to join. Just a little tip, I'm up to my last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See how they're kind of all going all different directions? That's perfectly fine. It's normal. I've got 1 more to go, and you'll see there's not much room to shove it in there, but you can get it in there. What I do is I kind of just push this back or push it forward to get it out of the way. And then you can find your stitch better. And when you're crocheting, like I do this with every time I'm crocheting, your hook's not going to get stuck into the stitches that you've already done. And did I just totally go out of frame there? I hope not. So basically you're just pushing this forward, or you can push it back, whatever's comfortable for you, or you know, whatever your own way of doing it. That's just what I do. So we've got 3. And you can see I've forgotten to put the rest of my stitch markers in, but that doesn't matter. And you know what? I've totally just done chain 3 all the way around. So I'll show you how to join, and then I'll go and fix it off camera. Oh dear. So you're going to find the very first stitch we did, and in our case it's a chain 3. You may have done a standing double crochet or something like that. So whatever your first stitch that you did, I've got a chain 3. At the top of the chain 3, which is here, I am going to do a slip stitch. I go into that stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through the loop that's on your crochet hook. And we're going to just pull that snug. And that's our second round finished. And you will have 4 stitch markers if you did it. And they will be in every second chain space. I need to go and fix mine, so I will be back in just a sec. And all is right with the world. And I have 4 stitch markers, which is 4 corners, and they are 4 chain 4 spaces. And we are going to finish off this colour. So we're just going to yarn over and pull through. So now it's around 3. So for me, what colour is that? It's this beautiful shocking pink. We are going to join our new yarn into any of the chain 4 spaces. If you are using the same colour, what you would have done is joined and then slip stitch into the chain 4 space. So let's pretend this yarn's still attached, and you'd have a loop on your crochet hook. You'd go through, pull up, focus camera, and then you'd pull through the loop. So you just slip stitch into that chain 4 space. Sorry guys, I totally forgot to tell you if you were using the same colour. So you want to join into a chain 4 space. If you rewind. If you are using a different colour, you are going to join in a chain 4 space. But what I recommend, because we've got this tail, because we've changed colours, I recommend joining in a different chain 4 space than the one that's just after where we joined, because you're going to be crocheting over these and you don't want to be crocheting over too many at a time because it's painful. Go sort of opposite or 2 or 3 back or whatever, wherever you want to go, just not in that same one that's next to the tail. So grab your yarn, pull it through, leave it, I don't know, 3 inches at the back. And this is how I join. You can join however you want. So I chain 4, but it's actually a chain 3 because the first one, which is really loose, snugs down into the pattern and disappears. And we are going to crochet over our tail. So I'm just putting that around there so it stays there. And we're going to work 7 double crochet. And it's all going into this space. We're no longer working into a stitch, we're just working into spaces for the basically the remainder of the square, except for the last round, I think. So we've got 3, we need 7 altogether. So the first one counts as our first double crochet. I'm going to do this quick because you know how to do a double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need 7, oops, 7 altogether. You can remove that stitch marker if you want because it does get in the way, it gets stuck on your crochet hook. So put our crochet hook into the first stitch, which was for me the top of the chain 3. I'm going to pull that through and work chain 4. Because we're in the chain 4 space and we are now creating the corners. I'm just going to remove this because it's going to get in my way. And I'm just going to wrap it around the chain 4. You could just put it through the chain if you wanted to, if you're worried it's going to slip off when you're crocheting now. But see all our stitches, they're all hugging, or hogging more like, this chain 4. So we just want to scoot them over so we can crochet in that bit there. So we want to put in 7 double crochet. I apologise for that stitch marker banging on the table. Again, first video back. And I've realised there is a T-tail missing. It's all high tech here. T-tail missing to stop banging. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'll do that after this bit here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Into there. We already know how to do a popcorn. So we've done that bit. And that's created our first, or technically our second corner, because that's our first one there. So I'm just going to run off and grab a tea towel. I'll be back. A tea towel is also a lot more comfier to lean on than a table. Now we're going to work a chain 3 because we're going to go along the straight edge of our square. Not that you can really tell at the moment, but it'll take place. Take place? That's not the right saying. Take shape. So 1, 2 and 3. So we have a chain 3 space here because the chain 4 space is over there. So this means there's no corner, it's just a popcorn stitch. So 7 double crochet. Put your crochet hook in the first stitch, on the loop, pull through. You get pretty quick at this after you've made quite a few popcorns. So chain 3. So we're only doing a chain 4 when we're in a chain 4 space. So you can see one coming up here because we've got our stitch marker. So we're going to work in there. See how the crochet hook gets in the way? And then we're going to put this through there and do all that stuff. 2, 3, 4. We did the chain 4 because we're in the chain 4 space, and again stitches are hogging the chain 4, so we need to scoot them across and work our second popcorn stitch. We can move our stitch marker up. See, sometimes it doesn't get in the way, but most of the time it does. Move that up to there. And we now have 2 corners of our square starting to take shape. You can see that there. So we want to continue around until we have all 4 corners complete. So if you're coming up and you'll see no stitch marker, it's a chain 3 space, so you know you only just put 1 popcorn. If you come around again and you've got a stitch marker, you know you need to do a popcorn stitch, a chain 4 and a popcorn stitch in that same chain 4 space. So you can see here I'm coming up to where my last round colour was cut off, and I'm going to be crocheting over that, so I'll just be laying it across the work. Another thing I was doing on my other squares, which I've just remembered, it's been a little while since I crocheted them, I've just been wrapping it around and just sort of going into the back of the popcorn stitch there. Doesn't matter which way you go as well. You could go, what am I doing? I'm going anti-clockwise at the moment. You could go clockwise as well, it doesn't really matter. If you do it at the end of each colour, it's easier to do because, well, there's no other stitches in the way. And I'm not pulling it tight, I'm just pulling it through. What you do want to do after it is just give it a bit of a not stretch, but so it doesn't pull in when you've weaved it through. It's got your corners in, so continue around and I'll show you how to join when we get to the end. Pause the video and I'll see you there. I can see my tea-towel sneaking in. Anybody else notice? When we get to the end, we have our chain 3 and we're going to join like we did before into the first stitch, and again for me it's a chain 3, so we're going to put a crochet hook through there and just do a slip stitch to join. And I'll show you what mine's looking like, and it will sort of curl up like that. I think it's just the nature of the stitches, but trust me, it does lay flat. See? It lays flat. And once you've got your bag joined together, it'll stop becoming a soup bowl. So this is what I have so far. I'll just put my fingers in the corner so you can see it better. I don't remember my screen being so tiny. So there we go. We have a square, and we are going to continue with our next colour. And I'm going to show you the next round, and then after that it's basically just repeating it. You're basically repeating the pink round that I've just done, except each round you're going to get more stitches, so you're going to have longer straight bits. I don't know why I thought that was funny. You're going to have longer straights. The sides are going to get longer, obviously, because you're making a bigger square. So let's, apologies again for those stitch markers. It's because I've got so many in my project. Please don't thumbs down for the stitch marker noise. Okay, so my next colour is a purple. And this is our dark orchid. It's a beautiful colour. I'm just hoping it's not too dark for this dark background. If not, we'll have a change of scenery. We're going to attach our yarn. I'm just going to remove that stitch marker out the way because it's getting in my way. And again, I've got about 3 inches at the back, and I'm going to do my chain 4, which for me is like what I said before, that it's only a chain 3 because the first one disappears. We're going to work over this purple tail. It's not too bad on the black background, but you shouldn't have a problem because you've just worked the previous round and it's pretty much the same. So we're going to work 6 double crochet, and that will give us 7 altogether because our chain 3 is counted as our first stitch. There's still a stitch marker tap on the table. And we're going to just close that off. We're going to do chain 4. Just realised why it was such a small screen. I had it zoomed in. I am so professional. We need 7 double crochets. Did I mention I'm out of practice? It's ridiculous. It's like a circus. Chaos everywhere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've done our chain 4 because we've just done our corner, and now we're on our straight section. So no stitch markers means chain 3. And this time we should, I think it's an extra 1 popcorn stitch that we gain on each side each round. Never really counted it, but I think it's 1 more. And if you accidentally do 6 double crochets or 8 double crochets, there's no crochet police and you're not going to notice it. So that's chain 3 because they're on the straight sides. You're supposed to be crocheting over that tail, but you know, you're probably doing it. Don't pay any attention to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. What? Where is it? What do we have? We had 2 pink on the straight before because that's a corner. Hang on. That's a corner. And that's a corner. No, we have 1 pink on the straight. And now we have 2 because our next one's a corner. So yeah, we do. We gain 1 popcorn every round. So because we're in a corner, we know we have to do our chain 4 in between our 2 popcorns. What colours are you using? I would love to know. Are you doing all one colour or are you just mixing it up? 1, 2, 3, 4. And are you a planner? Do you have to plan your colours or are you just random? I can't do random. I have to plan it. I don't know why. 1, 2, 3. I do make random coloured blankets, but not very often. 1, 2, 3, 4. And even if they're random, they're not exactly random. Okay, so we're just putting in the second popcorn of our corner. And you guys, you probably already know what to do. I'm just doing it just in case you don't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I really appreciate you watching my very first tutorial back. It means the world to me. It really, really does. Chain 3 because we're now going to the straight. Move your stitch marker. So if you're on Facebook, so I know a lot of people don't use Facebook, but if you are on Facebook, we have a Facebook group and we have so much fun in there. So sharing your Bob Wilson projects. I'm going to finish off the rest of the square, but you can see it's starting to go square. I think with this purple round that's really going to square it off. The pink round kind of looks like a circle, and the orange one obviously does. Continue on, pause the video, and I'll meet you when we have our popcorn square finished. So you can make this as big as you want. We do add 2 rounds of single crochet at the end, so it only adds probably, what, 1/4 inch, if that. So make your popcorn square as big as you want it. If you're an exact person, your single crochet round is going to add probably 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch on the outside. So make your square as big as you want. I'm just going to measure my square. My popcorn squares I've already done are 13 inches. With the 2 rounds on the edge, they are 14 inches. Okay, so it adds an inch. So mine are in total 14 inches. So I did 10 rounds of the popcorn. So 11 altogether, including the first yellow middle one. But 14 of these popcorn rounds altogether. And you will need to make 5 squares. I'm going to meet you when we're ready to do the 2 rounds just on the edging. I have finished off my square with as many popcorn stitches that I want to do, and I finished off on a blue round, and that should give me a total of 10 popcorn stitch rounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now we are ready for the edging. We are doing 2 rounds of edging. So we just want to grab one of our corners, it doesn't matter which one it is. And into our corner stitch, we are going to work 5 single crochet. And that gives us enough stitches to work around the corner and so that it lays flat as well. So we're just going to join our yarn in, and I'm going to chain 1, and that doesn't count as a stitch because it's just joining the yarn onto the project. And we're going to work 5 single crochets. First of all, we want to chain 1 to get ourselves up to the correct height. And we're going to single crochet into the chain 4 space. I'm going to do 5 altogether. And you can see I'm crocheting over my yarn tail as well. Into each chain 3 space, which is along our straight edge, we are going to work 3 single crochets. So go into the space, so that's 3 single crochet. Into the next one we're going to work 3 single crochet. You don't want to work your crochets too tight, single crochets, because it will make it curl up and it won't lay flat, which is what you don't want it to do. You want it to lay flat. So if you find that you can't do single crochets small enough, I would just go up a crochet hook size. So I'm using a 5mm or a H, so maybe just go up to a 5.5 or an I size crochet hook. So we're going to do 3 in each space across. And I'll meet you when we're at the next corner. I'm up to my corner space here, and you can see by stitch marker, and we're going to work 5 single crochet into that corner space. And we're going to repeat this all the way around. We're going to work 3 single crochets into the straight edge along there, and then 5 when we get to the corner. Pause the video and I will see you when we are ready to join. Before we join, you can see how my edges are curling. Well, I hope you can. You can see how they're curling up. That's because I've just crocheted, and we are going to pin this down to block it. I haven't actually blocked it with any water or anything. I've just sort of air blocking. Is that a thing? I don't know. It is now. But what we're going to do is we're just going to stretch, if you can see my hand. We're just going to pull it out and make sure it can lay flat. It's still going to curl up a bit because we haven't pinned it out. When you join it, even if you don't pin it out, when you join it, it's all going to lay nicely. But if you can't just give it a little bit of a stretch and get it to lay flat, the corners are going to pop up because it will do that naturally. You need to use a bigger crochet hook. I've managed to keep my single crochets quite loose. We are ready to join. Look at that. The inside of the bag looks really cool too. Got a couple of ends to finish off there. Some just need cutting off, but there are some that need to be sewn in. So I've got 3 in there, and we're just going to join. You probably already know how to do this, but you're just going to find the first single crochet, which is there, and poke your hook in. Yeah, there. And what we need to do is do another round, and this just neatens it off. So you can see that I don't have my stitch marker because I forgot to tell you on the first one, but you would have had text on the screen. So now I've got to figure out where the third one is. So 1, 2, 3. chain 1. We're going to single crochet in the same stitch as the chain 1. And we're going to single crochet in the next one. And where we have our stitch marker, we're going to remove this. You can remove it completely because it is actually the last round that we're working on. And we're going to do 3 single crochet into that marked stitch. We don't do 5 this time because, well, we just don't. I don't know if I can explain in words why we don't. Here we had a big gap that we had to go right around, and here we've only got just a little, this stitch here is our corner, so we've got a little point, and we only need 3. If we did 5, it would ruffle, and we don't want that to happen. What's going on? So we've got 3 in that same stitch. And we're going to single crochet in every stitch along the straight edge of our bag. Well, it's not a bag yet, it's a square. Where is our stitch? And then when we get to the corner, we will have our stitch marker on the 3rd stitch, and we're going to work 3 single crochets into it, just like we did here. And like I said, you can take your stitch marker out if you like, because we finished with our stitch markers for this part of the bag. And you can see there it just gives it a nice square edge. Work your way around and I'll meet you when we're ready to join. Once we come around, we are going to join, and it looks a little bit weird there. It looks like there's not really a join because the single crochet is so short. But you'll know because you'll have 1 round here, and then all of a sudden it will go to 2 rounds. So we're just going to join into the 1st stitch and pull through and pull through. And we're just going to cut off, and we can sew that in. I'm not going to sew this in because I think I might be able to crochet over this when I'm joining my granny squares together, or edging, that's not even a word, adding the edge to my bag. So if I can't do that, I will just sew them in when I've finished joining. So you can see that mine won't lay flat because I've just done the edges. Give them a bit of a stretch out. And you can see now that it will lay flat. Looks a bit bulgy at the top there, but trust me, once it's all stitched together, it will be fine. If you are joining us just to make the square, then thank you so much for joining us. Doesn't that look beautiful, those colours? I love it. You don't have to make it as big as this. You can make it, you can stop at any stage and you can add your edging on just here. I would love to know what you have made if you have just made the squares. I'd love to see a photo. You can tag me on Instagram, or you can share a picture on our Facebook group. I will put all the links that you need down here in the description box. Just click on the down arrow, or if you're on a PC it should automatically be there, and just click on the show more. Again, thank you so much for joining us for this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy crochet. I totally didn't know what to say then because it was my first video in a year.